Wednesday, July 10th, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time, 2019. Guys, in this video, we're going to start out up here in Alaska, take a look at these wildfires that are burning throughout the great state of Alaska, some of them as large as the city of Chicago. We're going to take a look at the storm that's brewing down in the Gulf of Mexico, talk about this toxic algae bloom that could be moving inland. They're telling you to stay away from the beaches, which is a good idea, but unfortunately, as this storm is rolling out into the Gulf, here's a photograph by Sam from Mobile, Alabama, yesterday afternoon, as this is the leading edge or part of this storm system. It's not really a storm yet, it's a disturbance that's making its way into the Gulf of Mexico. That's a view of part of that storm right there. Thank you, Sam, for sharing. But what this storm could do is it could bring the beach to you. You need to keep that in mind. The storm's going to have an inland flow, and it's going to be picking up particulates from that toxic algae bloom. It's created an entire 500-mile wide hypoxic zone down here in the Gulf of Mexico. And what that hypoxic zone is, it's an area that gets depleted of oxygen when we have epic floods. And we've had a very big flooding season this spring in 2019, and the Mississippi watershed did its job. All of the water drains from the west and from the east into the Mississippi River. All of that water flows south through New Orleans, through the Mississippi Delta out into the Gulf of Mexico. And all of the pollutants that it picks up along the way and brings with it, they all land right here. So it depletes the oxygen in the waters along the coast, and in some cases I think it's a contributing factor to these toxic algae blooms. So they've got the beaches closed for a reason, because it's not safe, so just keep that in mind. Exercise some caution over these next 3 or 4 days. If this storm system does turn into a hurricane, it's going to create high winds and possibly bring these particulates inland. So it's just something to think about. I've also got a slideshow I put together of some amazing photographs that you guys have shared with me. Once again, you're wide awake and on the ball. Great job. All the photos you can find here at the Sky Phenomena Photo Gallery and more. But I have put together a slideshow that I'm going to share with you here in a minute. But first, we're looking at carbon monoxide concentrations. The darker the color, that usually means the bigger the wildfire, the more smoke it's putting off. And all of these have a similar, very dark color, and those are deep concentrations of carbon monoxide. Article here dated July 9th, yesterday, 2019, talking about how some of these wildfires are as large as Chicago. So that's very difficult to manage. So this is going to be an ongoing thing. Alaska has seen temperatures this year for the first time in Anchorage. It reached 90 degrees, not only once, but multiple days in a row. So a lot going on up in Alaska. We're about to get busy down here in the Gulf of Mexico. Like I said earlier, EcoWatch.com reporting every Mississippi beach closed due to toxic algae. And we just talked about that, how it basically forms from pollutants from the watershed that get picked up during very rainy springs. And we've had a very rainy spring, and it's continuing to rain. There's a storm that dropped 9 inches of rain yesterday in south central Nebraska. And here you're looking at, yet again, cars, buildings underwater. And like I showed you in a video, just that one car right there, everything underneath that car, the tailpipe, all of the oils, the different contaminants on the car are now in the water. And take that times a few thousand cars that may be flooded, maybe a few 100,000 cars along the way, it just depends. I mean, all of those pollutants end up in the water that end up down in the Gulf of Mexico via the Mississippi River. So the watershed's doing its job, but with a lot of flooding, it picks up a lot of pollutants. So creates that hypoxic zone, ended up closing the beaches, and now we have the potential of a storm bringing some of those toxic algae bloom particulates inland. So just exercise some caution, guys. Be careful, because this storm does have the potential of becoming a named hurricane, quite possibly. The National Hurricane Center is giving it a 90% chance of becoming a named storm. The longer it stays out over these warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, the better it has of becoming a hurricane. You're going to look at a chart here from weathercharts.com. This is a model that does show it possibly becoming a named storm by Saturday. I want you to pay attention to this area right here where that L's at. The closer the circular lines are together, that means the stronger the winds are and the more organized this system is going to become. And you're looking at Thursday at midnight. Now we're going into Friday. The lower the number, the stronger the storm. So the lower it gets into the 900s, the more wind it's going to create, especially on the right side of this storm into Mississippi where they've got the beaches closed. You can see this is what Weather Charts is showing us, and Weather Charts is a very good source of information. I have a lot of respect for this particular software. I've used it many times, and it's been very accurate. It's showing this system moving slowly inland over southern Louisiana in the New Orleans area. 986 millibars. That's very low. That's a very strong storm with high winds. And again, the darker the colors, the more concentrated water there is in these storms. So it's going to drop a lot of rain at a very staggering pace, quite possibly a couple of inches an hour. I'm going to show you some of the models from yesterday I took screenshots of. Because it's a forecast right now, it can and will change. We're on Wednesday. We've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday. And this is going to really start to get going later on this afternoon into this evening. As it's staying over those warmer waters, it's going to get stronger and stronger. But they're showing whether it has wind or not. And that's basically what's going to happen if it does become a named storm. It's just going to compound the situation with wind. I think the moisture is going to be there either way. You're looking at 26 inches of rain. This is a model forecast that I took a screenshot from yesterday near Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And again, these are changing, can and will change all the way up until the storm becomes a reality. 20 inches of rain just west of New Orleans. And this again is a forecast that more than likely will change. It could be greater, it could be less. 29 inches of rain, once again, just west and slightly north of New Orleans. This is going to bring a lot of rain to the Louisiana area, whether it be south central, east central, in the Lake Pontchartrain area. It's already raining very heavy right now, and the storm hasn't actually really got going yet. It just entered the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to look at wind gusts, and you can see here at windy.com, it is showing it making landfall in southwestern Louisiana now. It keeps changing every probably 2 hours. One forecast, it'll be over in the eastern part of Louisiana with a landfall more towards New Orleans. Now it's got a landfall more towards southwestern Louisiana, including Texas. So if you're in Texas, keep a very close eye on this. I know Beaumont, this is the last thing Beaumont needs, is some sort of a big heavy rain-making tropical storm. They're still trying to get over Hurricane Harvey. So right now, though, that's what this model is showing us, and the models are trying to get into agreement. I think this thing does have the potential of becoming a named storm, but whether it does or it doesn't, I don't think it's going to impact the rainfall totals. The rainfall totals have been very consistent for the most part all along. Anywhere over 2 feet is a reality with regard to this storm. Whether it becomes a named storm is just going to factor in high winds. So the National Hurricane Center once again is showing a 90% chance of this storm becoming a hurricane. And that's what windy is showing right now, at least a Category 1, possibly a Category 2. It's going to be a long duration event, slow moving storm, so the slower the mover, the greater chances that it does have of becoming a hurricane. Big heads up, guys, a lot of rain coming, whether this thing becomes a named storm or not. I put together a slideshow of some awesome photos, once again, that you guys have sent in. This is of a water spout from the Daytona Beach area, sent in by Melly. And you can see it off in the distance. It's right there. That's a still image of the water spout. I don't know if this is associated with this storm system or not, but this was taken a couple of days ago off the east coast of Florida. Now Mobile, Alabama. This is a photograph that I just shared with you, sent in by Sam. This is part of the leading edge of this disturbance that could become a hurricane out in the Gulf of Mexico. Kylene, Texas. Photograph sent in by Alicia. Look at that. Almost looks like the beginning of a possible tornado. Low riding shelf cloud, again, sent in by Alicia from Kylene, Texas. Great photograph. Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Cecil noticed this unusual cloud that almost too looks like it's trying to maybe come down, turn into some sort of a cyclonic storm, but nevertheless, it does have a very unusual feature. Maybe it's a partial shelf cloud. I don't know what we've got going on here. Cecil noticed it, thought it was interesting, took a couple of photographs and shared with us. Thank you, Cecil. Greatly appreciate it. Once again, that's from Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Next photograph is out of Elijah, Georgia. And you can see again, we're seeing another square feature in the atmosphere like we saw the other day. And this was taken by Brenda, photograph taken a couple days ago, I think. Seeing squares in the sky now. Very unusual. Northeast Georgia, Mary noticed a big shadow cast in the sky. Probably a crepuscular ray. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Nicole, she said she thought this storm system was going to produce a tornado. It looked that ominous. Another example of a shelf cloud. This cloud here looks like it's sitting on the ground. It almost looks like a greyhound dog in a dog race. Look at that. All extended out, legs in the front, legs in the back. Just a dog sprinting across the ground. There's his little tail. This is out of York, Nebraska. Very low riding cloud that appears to be basically sitting on the ground. Fairmont, West Virginia. Natasha, another high profile shelf cloud. A lot of these lately. Beautiful photograph sent in here by Wendy from Northeast Georgia. An orange sky. She called that the lava looking sky. Kansas, this was sent in by Judy. You got a cloud extending up into the atmosphere. It looks like that one we saw off the coast of Florida, but this one has a lightning bolt in the center of it. Some sort of a blue streak in the sky noticed by Jackie from Sonoma, California. She sent in 3 photographs. That was the first one. Here's the second one where it's more of a rainbow colored. Looks like the same one. And then we've got some sort of a unusual double-ringed halo around the sun. It almost looks out of focus, but it's not. I noticed the tree down here is in focus. This thing looks like it's overlapping with 2. I don't know. It's just very unusual. Usually we see these and there's just one, and it's perfectly round in most cases. This one doesn't look perfectly round, and it almost looks like it's got an overlapping halo. Highlandville, Missouri, sent in by Jeff and Annette. They noticed this sunset was just very unusual. It almost looks like it was observed through wildfire smoke, but I don't know of any wildfires, at least I'm aware of, in Missouri. This here is a super interesting photograph shared by Jeff B. What does that look like? Looks like the yin-yang in the sky. You've got a round cloud here minus it's got a hole in it where the cloud is not there, but it looks like it's over here. So it looks like this is over here. It's a inverted replica of each other. Look at that. And I'll show you an example here. I just inverted the photograph. Perfect match, huh? Look at that. Great observation. Triangle noticed by Liz from Indianapolis, the only one of its kind in the sky, and this was way off in the distance. And in fact, I'm working on some other videos and photographs of things that have been sent in here recently that people have noticed in the sky next to the sun. I've got, in fact, 2, one video and a couple of pictures that were shared with me here recently of some very unique things in the sky. So I'm taking my time on those guys. These here were pretty cut and dried, a little easier to see than the ones that I'm going to share with you here probably in the next day or 2. But it looks like a perfect triangle in the sky that she noticed off in the distance. Great observation, by the way, because that was quite a ways away. Again, by Liz from Indianapolis. It looks like a perfect triangle zipping through the sky. Awesome sunset. Blake, Jacksboro. That's one photograph, and here's another. Some big shadows, big beams in the sky. Just gorgeous. Grapevine, Texas. Perry. Another gorgeous sunset. Pinks and purples. Now, this is an observation from the ISS. This was sent to me by Darren from the UK. And this is as the International Space Station was out over the North Pacific Ocean, right here in this area. And this is what he noticed on the North Pacific Ocean, or above the North Pacific, as this was making its trip around the Earth. And you can see some sort of a very large surface feature or cloud feature above the Pacific Ocean. That's something that he doesn't normally see, and I have to admit I've never really seen anything quite like that either. Looks like a big shape in the sky above the Pacific Ocean, visible from the International Space Station. You definitely wouldn't have been able to see that from the ground. So good observation, Darren. Thank you for sharing. Greatly appreciate it. Once again, guys, if you're in the Louisiana area, quite possibly the eastern Texas area along the coast, just know that this storm system is just now getting organized or not. It's moving to the west. Either way, it's like I said, moving to the west. It just depends on when it's going to turn to the north. The longer it stays in the Gulf of Mexico, the better chance it has of going to the west. The quicker it turns to the north, then obviously it won't affect Texas as much. But right now, the latest model is showing an impact somewhere on the Texas-Louisiana line. And this isn't the first time I've seen this. It had a model representing this a couple of days ago. Then it went back to the east, and then back to the central part of Louisiana, back to the east. Now it's back to the west again. So we're keeping a very close eye on this situation, as it could potentially bring over 2 feet of rain to some parts of Louisiana, Texas, quite possibly even Mississippi. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a super day, and be safe out there.